I literally just got to Canada and everyone is leaving. I just got here and everyone is leaving. I mean, if you talk to people, citizens and immigrants alike, one thing that constantly people tell you is that this is not the Canada we know. And because of that, many people are leaving. In as much as we hear so much about people coming into Canada, another aspect of it is that many other people are leaving Canada. Let me issue this disclaimer that I am not trying to discourage anyone from moving into Canada. Either am I encouraging anyone to leave Canada. That is not the purpose of this video. I have personally been shocked by the number of people I've come across who are leaving Canada. So I am here to tell us all the reasons some of them gave me for leaving Canada and what I also think is contributing to why many people are leaving Canada. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Edwina. If this is your first time here, you are so welcome. Consider subscribing to be part of this lovely family. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. In today's video, we are going to talk about why people are leaving Canada. The number one reason why most people are leaving Canada is unemployment. The current unemployment rate is quite alarming, especially for new immigrants or newcomers into Canada. It is very difficult for newcomers into Canada to land jobs. Most employers in Canada will not employ you if you have no Canadian experience. How does a newcomer have Canadian experience when they have never worked in Canada? So that is a tough one. I mean, you need to work in Canada to get Canadian experience, right? And here is the case: you are not being employed because you do not have Canadian experience. But you live here for a while and you really understand why employers want to employ people with Canadian experience, because the culture is quite different. The way Canadians speak is quite different. The way they handle issues is quite different. So yes, you would perform better at any workplace if you know the Canadian culture and how they handle things in their workplace. This has contributed to many newcomers putting down their skills and taking other jobs that they have no experience in. Most of these jobs are physically demanding jobs. And for this reason, some would rather just go back to their home countries. And the issue of unemployment is not pertaining to new immigrants or newcomers alone. Some citizens in Canada are also going through these unemployment issues. The current unemployment rate in Canada is 6.6%, and this is not limited to newcomers or immigrants alone. According to this data, there were 1.5 million unemployed people in August 2024, an increase of 60,000 from July and an increase of 272,000 from August. The unemployment rate in August 2024 is the highest since May 2017. So guys, it is no joke at all. For citizens, for immigrants, for newcomers, it is no joke at the current rate of unemployment. I personally know someone who came in from Nigeria and after a year had no job. This person had no reason to continue living here, so he had to leave. Even in Canada for a year, searching for work to no avail, he had to go back to Nigeria. Luckily for him, he did not resign from his work, so he can go back to work. And especially in the case of newcomers, guys, that is why I would always continually say that if you are coming in as an international student, don't come with a mindset that I am coming to work to fund my tuition or stay in Canada. In this current circumstance, that may not work. Come with enough money. Come with a mindset that even if I do not get any job, I will be able to fund my tuition and my living expenses whilst I live in Canada. Mostly Canadians rely on the referral system of employment. It is even more difficult to get a job when you do not know anyone as a newcomer. When you are putting in applications, you are likely to be asked if you know anyone in the institution already, if you are related to anyone in the institution, if you were referred by anyone inside already. If you do not know anybody, it becomes very difficult for you to get a job here in Canada. The second reason why people are leaving Canada is the workplace mental health. You go through the stress to find a job, and after finding a job, you come to realize that the work is so demanding that it affects your mental health. And this report says that 1 in 5 Canadians lives with mental health challenges. The hardest hit are employed Canadians in their early and prime working years. The reality of COVID-19 has significantly blurred the line between work life and home balance, exacerbating this situation. Imagine nurses working for a straight 12 hours in Canada. If you are a parent, if you are a mother who have children to take care of, you have a family to take care of, how do you do both things efficiently and effectively? How do you work effectively for these 12 hours and still manage to take care of your home and your children effectively? How do you take your children to school when you are supposed to be at work as early as 7 a.m. and close as late as 7 p.m.? How do you pick up your children from school? How do you have a quality time with your family? So all this is contributing to the workplace mental health of many people in Canada. And that is why people will leave to other places where they can find a good balance between work and home and family. The third reason why many people are leaving Canada is taxes, high taxes. It is very common for newcomers who start working in Canada after they have received their first salary to think the amount they received has been miscalculated. When you are employed, you are informed of your hourly rate, yeah? So you know you've worked for this number of hours. So you have an estimated expected income. And then at the end of the month, the money that comes into your account it's not close to that amount, and you think some miscalculations have gone on, only to look through your pay stub and you realize how much taxes you have been charged on how much you earned. Taxes are so high in Canada, and after being taxed on your income, you are still taxed on almost every goods and services that you spend the same money on. So you are taxed before the money comes, and whilst you are spending, you are still taxed on the same money. Another reason why people leave Canada is high cost of living and also high cost of rental or housing. Everything is expensive in Canada. Rent is very expensive in Canada. Food is expensive. Most people say the current high cost of living in Canada and the high cost of renting and housing is as a result of the mass immigration Canada has had in these recent years. The housing crisis is more of a demand and supply affair. Because there are more people in Canada now, there's high demand on housing. Because of that, prices have increased. That is why many people are demonstrating against mass immigration in Canada. There is a survey that says that the most affected by these housing crises are people with modest incomes. Younger people and renters are the ones most affected by the housing crisis. More than 1/3 of respondents of this survey, that 37%, say that they would not be able to afford their current housing situation if the cost of their monthly rent or mortgage payment increased by 10% in the next year. The average person in Canada finds rent very expensive. people are not able to buy houses anymore because it's way expensive. It's like you are working yourself out just to pay bills, and that is why people work more than one jobs just to be able to pay bills. And that is where the stress comes in. I met a man who told me that when he is in Canada, he is on BP medication. This man is a Canadian, but originally from Ethiopia. And he is thinking of moving back home with his family as soon as possible, because he told me that when he is here, he always constantly needs to be on BP medication. But whenever he visits home, he doesn't need to take his BP medication anymore. He goes off the medication and he is fine. He continues seeing the doctor and everything is okay. But immediately he comes back to Canada, his BP starts to rise and he needs to be on the BP medication throughout. You see people who are very old that you think at this time they should be retired and enjoying life, still working, because if they have not bought their houses yet, if they do not own homes yet and they still have to pay for rent, they may not be able to afford rent when they retire. So they are still working. People who are supposed to be resting, enjoying retirement, traveling, seeing the world, are still working in Canada, because if they do not work, they cannot pay bills. And that is why some of these people have decided to go to places where the cost of living is not as high as Canada, that they can rest and live comfortably. You are more likely to earn more for the same work in the USA than here. However, the cost of living here is higher. You can get the same house there at a cheaper price than you would get here. People are able to buy bigger houses with lesser amount of monies in other parts of the world. So at some point, people go out and relocate, settle, buy houses elsewhere, and settle and have a peaceful and quiet life. Another reason why people are leaving Canada is the healthcare. Now, one thing you hear when you are outside Canada is that Canada has a universal healthcare coverage. Healthcare in Canada is free. Everybody in Canada is covered on some health insurance, and healthcare in Canada is free. But once you come into Canada, you get to know the reality. And it has to do with the waiting time to access healthcare in Canada, especially if you want to see a specialist. You cannot see a specialist without going through a GP. So you have to go through a GP to get a referral to see a specialist. And that can take so long time. I mean, you will be surprised. Recently, a lady came in from Ghana who is pregnant and is trying to get a doctor and is going through a hell of a time getting a doctor. She just wants to get an ultrasound to check if her baby is okay. You cannot get the ultrasound without the doctor's prescription. You need to go through a doctor to get an ultrasound, and she is finding it difficult to get a doctor to be able to get an ultrasound. So imagine somebody who is coming to Canada with a mindset that everything in Canada is better than where I am coming from. And this person is hit with this side of it. Meanwhile, she was consistently seeing a gynecologist or a midwife where she's coming from. She had access to them any day, anytime where she's coming from. And she comes here and it hits her the struggle she needs to go through to find one. The country with the longest wait time for healthcare is Canada. As if more confirmation is needed, a new study suggests patients in Canada now face the longest wait time on record. The study, which surveys physicians across 12 medical specialties, found that the median wait time between referral from a family doctor to treatment now stands at 27.7 weeks. Guys, so if you have to wait for over 20 weeks to get a medical appointment. You have to wait for this long to get a medical appointment in Canada. This report says that in 2023, Canadian median waiting time between a general practitioner referral to a specialist was 14.6 weeks. In addition, the median waiting time from a specialist appointment to treatment was 13.1 week. In other words, the median wait time from a referral by a GP to treatment in Canada reached an average of 27.7 weeks in 2023. However, the median waiting time in Canada ranged from 22 weeks in Ontario to 57 weeks in Nova Scotia. 57 weeks in Nova. Is that not almost a year from seeing a GP to treatment? So you can just imagine, guys. This is a reason why some people would go to places even if they have to pay for healthcare and they have it readily accessible and they can see a specialist any day and any time and they have to pay for it. They would rather do that than to wait for forever to get to see a specialist. Another reason why people are leaving Canada is the crime rate and drug crisis. Guys, in some years ago, Canada was considered one of the countries with the lowest crime rate. However, recently, that is not the case at all. People in Canada are living in constant fear. There are homophobic attacks and people are living in constant fear, even in their own homes. They are afraid. There are always news articles about this. This one says, Hamilton man says he's scared after homophobic attack on his home. Police is investigating the crime as a hate crime. And another one says, man stabbed to death in Vancouver's Joyce Collingwood neighborhood. Another one says, police call Toronto man a serial killer, charged her with 3 Ontario murders in 3 days. One woman, killed 3 people in 3 days. And the fact that the youth in Toronto are being arrested at a higher rate in the recent 2 years. Toronto's youth firearm arrest goes up to 161% in 2 years. That is the new data. And police says that this is as a result of gangs recruiting and engaging young people, guys. Canada used to be one of the safest places to bring up children. But what is the situation now? Young people, the youth, are being recruited into gangs. So if you are someone who is so concerned about your children, their safety, your safety, and all that, you would want to live in a place where these things are very minimal. And that is some of the reasons why people are leaving Canada. Canada is no more the Canada we used to know. I remember carrying my baby on my back. I've told you that story, where I met an elderly woman who had a conversation with me and told me that she knows the baby is comfortable on my back, but she is worried because of safety reasons. She thinks I should carry my baby in a position where I can see the baby for safety reasons, because there are so many people walking around with knives on them in Toronto here. There are so many people under the influence of drugs and so many substances. They are walking around with knives and you need to be extra careful. I mean, you step out and you are so concerned about your safety. You need to be careful. You need to be watching, and there are so many unstable people out there. A friend of mine told me about 2 weeks ago when somebody just punched her. She was just going for a walk with her family and somebody just walked into her and just punched her. So you are always living in fear of what someone might do to you. Sometimes I need to cross the street to avoid walking into some people. These and many reasons are why people are leaving Canada for other places. People are living in constant fear. What's behind a spike in teens charged with murder? Teens charged with murder. Teens charged with murder. Okay, somebody as young as a 14-year-old, 14, charged with murder. 14-year-old charged with murder in Canada, guys. And this and many reasons are reasons why people are leaving Canada. These and many reasons for your own safety, for your peace of mind. I mean, to be able to move around freely, not thinking about who's going to stop you, who's going to shoot you. Another reason why people are leaving Canada is the weather. Canada is mostly cold. In the winters are long and it gets dark so early and it gets depressing and all that. And if you are somebody who have issues like health issues like arthritis and all that, at that time you wouldn't want to be here. So many people during the winter go out of Canada into tropical zones. And some people have permanently relocated to some places just because of the winter. People who needs to be constantly on painkillers because of the pain they have with arthritis. But these people travel out and they are good. They go to places where there is sunshine, they go to the tropics and they are good. They don't need to be on any medication and they do not feel that pain anymore and they are fine. So why should they not go? Why should they not go? So the weather is one major reason why people leave Canada. I mean, Canada gets so cold, so freaking cold that nobody ever gets used to the cold. I mean, when you are coming from outside Canada, you will think that those who were born here are used to the cold. But that is not the case at all. Nobody ever gets used to the cold. But there's nothing like getting used to the cold. No. So if you have ailments or health issues that are triggered as a result of cold, then you do not want to think of Canada even as a place to stay. You do not want to. People in Canada are living here because of the cold. So if you are not coming in and you have health issues that are triggered by cold weather conditions, then do not even consider Canada. Cross it out of your list. It is not a place for you. The last reason why I think people are leaving Canada is a challenge of making loyal friendship. People in Canada are polite. They will smile to you. But I kind of feel that the relationship is very shallow. So they are polite, they smile, but it kind of ends there. I mean, people will meet random people, you have conversations with them. But when you want loyal friends that you connect to on a deeper level, it is not easy to get that kind of relationship here in Canada. I mean, friends that are supposed to be there for you when you are down, friends that are supposed to be able to be there, and it is difficult for you to get that level of friendship here. I mean, everybody is busy. Everybody is busy running from one job to the other. I mean, it's just hello, hi, and people go their ways. People do not even know their neighbors. People do not know their neighbors. Somebody told me she hasn't seen her neighbor before, and I was like, how? If you all have things in common, like children who all go to the same school, that is likely to make you relate. But when you have nothing in common, one is a family person, one is a single person, they are all busy minding their businesses, you do not even know your neighbor. Some people do not know their neighbors. If you have ever lived in a place where neighbors are kind of family on its own, your neighbor doesn't see you by 10 a.m. or 9, they are already calling to find out if you are okay. If you have ever had that kind of relationship with neighbors and you come to Canada, you will be surprised. I mean, you might Be alone in your room and sick and whatever, and nobody even knows. And nobody even knows that something is happening to this person here. So people live here because at a point in time they want that relationship with people that connect at a deeper level. They want to have friends who genuinely care about them. They want to have friends who call them when they have not seen them in a while to ask what's going on with them. They want to have friends who are able to rush to come and check up on them at home when they are not seeing them for a while and think that what may be going on with this person. And it's difficult to get friends like that here. I mean, one day you have a friend, the next day you call the person and the person telling you, oh, I just lost my job, so I need to go to this place to find a job, or I just got a job in this place. You know how difficult it is to find a job here, so I need to move to another place to find a job. And so this friendship, the friendship doesn't stay for long because people always need to work. They are trying to keep up with the high cost of living. They are trying to survive in Canada, so they are so work focused. They want to be where they will find work. The focus is not on building relationship. The focus is on working and surviving, being able to afford rent, being able to survive in Canada. So you realize that things that are very valuable, like having a good relationship with others, with kids, family time, and all that, are suffering in one way or the other. So depending on where you are coming from, these things may be an issue or not, depending on where you are coming from or depending on what your priorities are. But these things are things that are very high on some people's scale of preference, and they prioritize them so much that because of that, they are leaving or would want to leave Canada at some point in time. In fact, I have met so many people who have an exit plan. Some are just waiting to get their citizenship and go. Some are waiting for retirement to leave, and a whole lot. So many people in Canada, citizens, immigrants, newcomers, are here, but most of them do have an exit plan. So these and many other reasons are why people are leaving Canada to other places. Like I said, depending on where you're coming from, this may be an issue or not, and also depending on what your priorities in life are. Consider subscribing to this channel to be part of this lovely family. Thank you so much for being here, and see you in my next video. Bye.